Hey guys, what is up? This is episode 14, Above Spirituality. I am here today with my good friend Sasha. Met him through the Rhythm Sanctuary, Alter Ecstatic Dance. He is a life coach, musician, as one can see. Hopefully that's in the shot. Life coach, musician, relationship coach, and spiritual citizen of Chicago. Sasha, how are you doing today?
I am doing okay. I don't know where to look here.
The phone.
There's people in the back. I can look at them.
Yeah,
or I can
also,
look at you, Gino.
Yes. Also, shout out to our audience today. Of course, we got Nils and Alexander, but Alexander is leaving us to go do his job. We have a returning guest, my good friend Pat Kearney. He's going to be doing some live painting later, and Maggie, who's going to be our guest next. But we'll let her have her spotlight when it's her turn.
Amen.
Well, brother, I'm really excited because, when we met, it was kind of a vulnerable time for me. We met, as a number of the guests in the show, if you've seen, through one of the ecstatic dance communities in Chicago, which is just an amazing thing. We're probably going to have Katie on in a couple weeks. Okay. But I remember it was my second time going to Alter, and I don't remember if I told anyone, but I was straight up feeling just like fucked up. Like after that, like sometimes like when I do this dance, it just brings out such powerful energies. And a group of us went to get tacos after, and you were just such like a kind presence. And you were specifically so supportive of my creative endeavors being the show. And, I never really told you that really meant the world to me.
Well, I do appreciate that too, because it means I'm doing something right.
Well, I won't say the other kind things you did that night because I want you to have your reward in heaven.
All right.
But
I could have it here. I can cash in here too. I don't have to wait for heaven.
Well, we talk about that afterwards. I'll buy you tacos sometime. Yeah. But no, so today I'm excited because our conversation, we've agreed, is just going to be an open conversation about spirituality. And both of our conversations we're going to have today are going to be pretty open, which is interesting because we usually do a little more focused.
Yeah.
So it was your idea to want to talk openly just about the topic of spirituality.
Yeah, it was. It's such a broad topic, and there is really no definition of it that will be like clearly describing what it is. Because we start with the word spirit, right? And immediately the scientist will be like, hello, can we measure that?
They like to do that. I mean, and I'm totally agree with them, because I come from the Soviet Union, the country, officially atheist country, where everything needed to be confirmed, right? So we were like materialistic and everything. And, I did pretty well without any kind of, religious concept in my life. The human was the pinnacle of creation. We turned the rivers against their flow. So the humans were, woohoo, and I didn't really need that. But then, you see, there's always a conflict, I think, that every person has against the reality or whatever you see or I see and whatever is inside, right? And I don't know where it comes from. It may come from the concept of multiple lifetimes, right, that we live. Yeah.
So the conflict can come from there. Like, why am I feeling this way but not this way, right? Like the way I should be feeling. Or childhood and now, right? In the childhood, let's say I was abused, right? And then like something is wrong with me now. I read a lot of literature on, my profession, basically trying to be more helpful to people. And this childhood abuse, trauma, everything, it just affects us so much in adulthood that, again, there's always conflict between inner and outer. So the spirituality, I think, is that quest, right? To realize, like, is material, this thing that I can touch, feel, sense, real or imaginary? And like the literature that covers centuries and centuries and even thousands of years back, they talk that we live in Maya, right? Maya, illusion.
Yeah, the great illusion.
Yeah, so, and when you're 20, you smoke weed and you do LSD and stuff like this, you're like kind of get a touch of it a little bit, but still, I mean, come on, how can illusion, like if somebody smacks me with a baseball bat, that's pretty real, it hurts. You see what I'm saying? So that's material, that's real. So am I real, or am I just a made-up mind creating matter, And that's what kind of is the question I'm still asking myself.
I find it interesting because I really find, and I've always found that in my spiritual belief when it comes to this interesting parallel with that Soviet belief of the the supremacy of man that I find also to admit like how incredible the human form is. That whole childhood limitation thing, I don't usually like to tell God that, he or she was wrong, but on that side I was like, you didn't have to do it. Yeah. It seems like a flaw, but I usually assume they're smarter than me. I whine about it though, but that's more just being a human. Yeah. But I've always found that it is a testament to the spirit within of how amazing the human form is. Now, an interesting thing, because you brought up Maya, have you ever heard I at least heard one of the myths of that term coming from India. Have you ever heard the myth?
No, go ahead.
I'll try to tell it briefly, and apologies to my audience if I've already told this story. I definitely tell stories more than once. Get used to it if you like my content. So very briefly, there was this person named Narada, and I think he was like the son of a god, and he's walking with Vishnu. And Vishnu's his teacher. Vishnu he teaches him all these things, and Narada says, "Hey, Vishnu, you've talked about this concept called Maya, illusion. I want to know about it." And Vishnu's like, "No, you don't." He said, "No, I really do." And he says, "Fine, but we've been walking for a while. Will you go down the road? There's a well. Bring me back some water. I'm thirsty." He says, "Okay." And also just clarify, this is how I was told the story in college by a professor of Asian studies. So Narada goes down to the well, and there he finds a beautiful young woman, and he's very taken with her. But he's going to get back to his master. But she says, no, it's late. Stay with me and my family. My father's the chief. You wouldn't want to go in the dark. You'll spill the water. He said, "Oh, okay." And he stays with the family. And essentially he keeps finding excuses to stay longer and longer until one day he's married the daughter. He's become the chief. He's brought the village to great prosperity, and he's got everything going for him. The story ends that he, as an old man then, has to go to the well just to get something, and he sees the bucket still there, and he's like, "Oh my God, I totally forgot about this. Like, how did that happen?" And then, you hear different versions of the story, like there was either like the dike of a river broke and the village flooded, or invaders came in. Everyone dies. And as Narada takes in the devastation, that's when Vishnu returns to him and he asks, "Where's my water?" Teaching him the illusion that nothing lasts in the physical.
Got it. Yeah, well, I'm sure the world is filled with those stories, and indigenous people, and our books keep those stories. And I think that's how my personal, and I think everyone's reality is formed, right? Based on the data we receive throughout life. First unconsciously, the first 5-6 years of life. I can't even recall my memories fully.
Yeah, I'm always suspicious people remember stuff before they're 5. I'm like, no, you don't.
It depends if there's a trauma or some kind of significant
emotional
event.
Maybe, yeah.
But usually that's part of the brain that recalls the memory is not even developed until like you're 7 or so. So that is existing in the term of my emotional personality, right? But then I get information from daycare, peers, middle school, grade school, high school, whatever I grab, and then I keep modifying my I am. You see what I'm saying? Like, I am so and so, and I keep saying I am so and so. And just like children grow, we don't see them when we raise them, but when somebody comes and says, "Oh, the children grew up," right? So is my I am. It changes. To me, it's always the same. Like in my head, I say I am, and I think I'm the same person. But for example, when I was getting high, right, and was doing some stuff just to survive, I did some shady stuff. And then when I got sober, I asked my friend how I was. How was I, like a person before? And they said, "You were a pretty shady dude, And I'm like, I don't remember. My I am doesn't remember that, So it's interesting how the reality changes even for me. And when people start debating, for example, about the shit that happened, and they start vehemently defending that this is so, the history is like this. I'm like, dude, I barely remember what I did yesterday for myself. How can I be on the side of somebody, trying to say they were right and that's what happened? I don't know. Even the memory is unstable. Mm-hmm. Like they say that memories can be implanted, first of all, and they did try it in the lab, and it worked perfectly. People started believing that as children they were lost in the mall, which never happened and stuff like this, which is a good thing too, because you can also heal yourself with bringing up the painful memories into the present, in the presence of the trusting person. So it goes back to your memory already painted with kindness and love. So you're not feeling that pain, a visceral experience of terror or other negative emotions of that memory. So it's kind of cool. We can rebuild our reality, which brings me to the point that time is a relative concept, right? So spirit, again, rules in terms of creating the reality in here and now, but at the same time, it encompasses everything. There's no past, no future, just this eternal moment of now, which is mentioned in, I guess, Eckhart Tolle talks about it.
Oh, he talks about it a lot.
Yeah, so that's how my reality is formed, And for me, the reason I believe there is, I wouldn't say God, right, or goddess, or it, there is some kind of intelligence, which again, I always love saying this: God is a guy or a gal who knows more about this reality than me, for this particular chunk of the universe, because it's limitless. In the unlimited universe, there's unlimited number of possibilities. Therefore, everything is possible. That's what I say, So it's not like God is perfect, And if we look at the Christian philosophies, right, and religion, as a dominant religion for now, they say God created us in His image and likeness, right? Do you feel alone sometimes?
Yeah.
Lonely, right? I guess
Don't laugh in the
here,
audience.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So the question is, if you feel alone and you are created in His image and likeness, guess what? God probably is alone too in that universe that has no beginning or end. But for this chunk of the universe that we can observe and try to fathom with our human mind, we kind of like say, okay, this dude or whatever, this gal knows what's going on, so I'd rather cling to it so I don't feel completely lost and scared.
That's kind of like a crazy synchronicity to me, because one thing I might have mentioned, and my audience knows, is that I'm part of a nonprofit, like a little mystery school called the School of Metaphysics. And that's a synchronicity you brought that up, because the lesson I was studying in class this week was basically the where do we come from? Who are we now? Where are we going? And it talks about what there's a teaching in the school of like how the universe was created by, they call the creator divine intelligence, but it's whatever. And what they said is like, imagine if there was only like one intelligence in the universe, or if you were alone on an island, you'd get lonely. You would stagnate because there'd be no one to share thought with. So as part of the creation of all things was included the increasing of the population of other, what they said, they also call it an I am. So essentially the creator, whatever that divine awareness is, could have other things to talk to. And what's also kind of interesting is we have a number of our Sufi friends have come on the show. And my good friend Moby, who is one of our guests, he used to teach me that in his belief, mankind was created for one reason and one reason alone. And he was taught that was to remember God. And the way I think of that is like souls were made so that they could potentially reach an incredibly high state, and there could be more instances of individual consciousness, like in a collective, but individual consciousness directly experiencing like high reality. And that's them remembering the Lord or remembering God, or he would call it Allah, but that's just an Arabic word.
Yeah, and again, any theory can work. Whatever works for you, I think, is the reality. So the cool thing is, I think for me today, is not to get stuck in any particular philosophy for long, because it's still creation of the limited mind of humans. Let's say we have this institute of thousands of people, right, and all believe in one thing, but it's just thousands of people. It's not 8 billion people that believe in one and the same thing. Therefore, nothing is really absolute.
But but Sasha, don't you understand that I like to go on Wikipedia and deep dive into a specific spiritual topic and like read like 10 articles on Buddhism, and then like get really into Buddhism for a while, and then eventually someone tells me about manifestation, and I get into that.
Of course, again, it's the certainty. You see, no matter how spiritual we are right now, you and me, if we could keep sitting like this, eventually I'm gonna need to go pee. And it's undeniable, and I cannot say
drink
no
enough
to
tea
it,
and coffee,
or I'm gonna get hungry. So we still need to provide for the needs of this vehicle, right? 50 trillion cells living their own life, being its own city, right? Each cell conducting themselves in such a manner to create the experience of Sasha. You know what I mean? So I do need to take care of this temple that was not built by me.
Especially when you have it decked out in such fine Adidas, my friend.
Yeah, right. Yeah, of course.
Well, that brings up an interest. There's so many topics your ideas inspire in me, but one I want to touch on is that, we started off the conversation with, that age-old, largely Eastern belief that, like, is all of this, like, even real in the first place? Which beyond that, that's a whole nother debate of, like, what did those yogis and saints and, smart people even mean by that? Mm-hmm. Yet the question is often, like, is this even real? And yet so much of anyone's individual spiritual journey has to do with the story and, even more importantly, the biology of their meat suit. And I think almost every spiritual person, I really wonder how it is for like a monk who's like renounced the world and stuff, but I feel like for almost every spiritual person, which I'd imagine even if you're a renunciate, it's the same thing, you often find yourself going back to like, what were the conditions of my childhood, that caused the I am that I currently like unconsciously experience to be what it is. I think every person who goes on a spiritual journey in some way, even if they don't call it spiritual, you arrive at this destination.
Yeah, and the good thing is that you have so much to do to unpack that seed. If you think about it, right, one sperm that gets, into the egg and grows, it actually goes through billions of years of evolution to get from one little cell to a full-grown human, right, before it's even born. So imagine the speed of development with the first 9 months, right? Then as a childhood, you're still going pretty fast. Then you start slowing down by age 25. So now my job is to, like my assignment really is to unpack that if I choose to. I can just eat and shit, you know what I mean, and live my life and watch TV. That's also an option. Or I can be unpacking until I am not breathing anymore. And I think this is an awesome homework that I give myself as a soul incarnate, to do in life. I'll never be bored. I'll always be curious. And each moment of my existence will be filled with meaning, no matter if the meaning changes or not.
That is the thing that I think a lot of people don't get about why so many people today are attracted to, you can call it a number of things. Why that demographic, spiritual but not religious, is like growing and growing. Yeah. It's because the spiritual, anything that you would call spiritual to me is really just something that has to do with meaning. I'm really glad for how you said that thing about the homework, because I've been whining about it on the show lately, how I kind of hate at some level, how we often grow through trials and tribulation. I don't like it. And I'm trying to become more mature about that. But
what do you not like about it?
Because I would rather grow through joyous experiences, adventure, and you often forget that a good chunk of what makes an adventure good is like some action or some drama. Mm-hmm. But through I just rather go through like love and support and accomplishment. And really it's just that I very much dislike pain.
Yeah, so we're at the topic of pain, of course. Pain there is a motivational triad that Doug Lyle, environmental psychologist, talks about in the documentary Forks Over Knives. He says every living creature on the planet tries to do two things to survive and pass its genes to the next generation. And this is energy conservation, pain avoidance, and pleasure seeking, which is food and sex for females, and sex and food for male species, which is strange but true for most of us. So look at this, right? We try to avoid pain by default to survive. So no sane person, unless there is a trauma or something, wants to go at pain. So we will try to avoid pain, but no pain, no gain. We know that expression very well. So the spiritual growth happens through the pain when I go through it. When I keep avoiding it, I am just surviving and passing my genes. So I'm not growing as a soul, as a spirit within, right? And my teacher, Dr. Judith Wright, she created 4 loving truths. One of the loving truths says, love and peace are the legacy of pain. Mm-hmm. So really, if I don't pain means breaking the old, right? I'm programmed as a child in the first 7 years of my life to feel and live certain way, right? And it's sort of like my matrix from now forward until I die, unless I stay mindfulness and keep growing, right? So if I don't realize where my pain is, I'm just gonna avoid it. But when I do, I can go at it. And like Will Smith said, there's always bliss on the other side of fear, on the flip side of fear. So if I go at my fear, fear becomes my friend. I don't have to run from it. And it's a challenge, man. Of course, who likes pain? Anybody here likes pain? Any sadomaso?
Any masochist over
here?
here?
Yeah, right there.
Oh,
So,
Pat, naturally.
yeah. Now, you can get used to more or less through the experience of going through pain and hurt. And that's what I'm doing, I'm learning about it. And it's emotional pain, by the way, and physical pain is registers in the same place in the brain.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter, But without pain, there's only one other way to learn, is from inside.
Yeah.
And it would be nice if we learned more from inside, but in my experience, and I'm going to sing
God's
a song
a stingy
about
bastard with it, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah,
And maybe that's my hot take that I shouldn't say.
That's right. So I think pain is the fastest way. Like for me, I would not be where I am today if it had not been for pain.
I know, and we always see that. I was my roommate is a very devout but open-minded Catholic, and he convinced me to start reading Solomon. So I was reading Ecclesiastes, and I don't know if you're super familiar with the Old Testament, but King Solomon, one of the things that he said in Ecclesiastes that just was very true, but it made me angry, was he said that said something along the lines of those who have only had good lives like live in a vanity, and that a soul or something along those lines. He said it needs sadness to be made wise. And I mean, he's right. I just wish it was not so. There was a teacher who I always talk about on the show. You might have read David Hawkins, and he talks about, because at the same time, if you study like stuff like the Course in Miracles or certain teachings, they talk about that, or even like in like the book The Shack or the movie, it's like God does not necessarily cause bad things. The universe doesn't cause bad things to happen because it's some primeval good for you, but higher consciousness can take a terrible thing and can make something rather beautiful out of it. When we were talking earlier about like that memory implanting stuff, this teacher, David Hawkins, he said once that compassion is the big self recontextualizing things that happened for the small self. It's the same thing in A Course in Miracles, that, there is so much available for you, and that something that we often, I think, miss in spiritual conversations, if you want to call them that, is that there is much that can be learned out of goodness in life and peace and happiness. In the Course in Miracles, it's very big on the point as you get around like lesson 40 or 40 and on, at least in my experience, it says, that the Lord made this universe for his son, not needing gender, but just use Christian terminology, so that you could have anything you wanted. Like, why would the Father or, the divine figure create something for you to suffer? It didn't want that to happen. That did occur, but that wasn't the way it needed to be. And at the same time, I mean, whether you're spiritual or an atheist, no one can deny that, tough situations makes the soul stronger.
So when I listen to you talk, yeah, you're right. You can. What's happening from the scientific standpoint when you're explaining this concept that you like, your left brain is making sense all the time out of even 2 unrelated or 3 unrelated facts, trying to create meaning, because otherwise it's chaos, and chaos is scary.
People underestimate that meaning is one of like the driving forces of the human psyche.
We are creating meaning no matter what and where, and sometimes you hear those crazy people that walk the streets and talk to themselves. They're totally fine in their world. So you can justify basically anything. So whatever you said about God, here's how I justify what you said from the story of
Sure.
a God and a son or whatever. I didn't grow up a Christian or any, in any religion. But check this out. Let's take a look at multiple lives. Okay, let's just use that. I use it for myself.
Reincarnation, stuff like that.
Yeah, reincarnation and stuff. Multiple
Whatever you want
lives.
to call it.
So let's say Jesus, let's just say, we don't know. Nobody knows for sure. It was Jesus's 2,744th life. Just for the hell of it, right? Maybe Jesus was the king, of some countries already 500 times before that, living rich and lavish life, having whatever he wanted. He got tired of it. His soul yearned for pain, So this time his soul decided, I'm going to incarnate into Jesus and get crucified so I can get the fullness of my existence from this perspective. That's how I look at all the suffering in the world today. You know what I mean? It's so much, maybe it's my way of hiding from reality or real pains, but it makes much more sense to me than trying to say, oh, Trump is wrong, or Kamala is wrong, whatever names we're going to throw in there, somebody's wrong, and like being totally sure about that. We don't know who Kamala is. We don't know who Trump is inside. We just see the physical stuff and what media gives us. Why would we even go there? I will never meet the dude.
I mean, we have a hard enough time seeing what's inside this. Then you want to try to see
Why
someone
would
else.
We even spend time discussing all the shit that I directly have no influence at? I can influence you by being next to you and saying what I believe, and it's your choice to accept it or not. What am I going to write a letter to Donald? Donald, you are very bad because you're doing these things. And he's like, oh, Sasha is right. I'm going to stop.
Well, what I think we do is that we, like you were saying earlier, we're constantly creating and generating meaning out of these things. And that's like why these mental exercises of just like enjoying talking about things. And I think a big teaching in a lot of spiritual practices is that it's important for you to discern what meaning, because you can juice and you can crave and you can create and consume meaning in a multitude of forms. Not all is wholesome. Just like you could live off of fast food and pay the price of it, or you could choose other things to eat. And that a lot of the spiritual way is choosing like what is the meaning I want to let rest in my mind, because anything that has that meaning, it also has an effect on my psyche and myself.
It's the feeling. So ultimately what you're saying, I think we're coming down to emotions, right? Emotions is the foundation of it. I came to this physical body to experience what my spiritual body cannot. My spiritual body cannot experience heat, cold, love, despair, pain, and pleasure. It cannot. It's just a constant bliss. There are so many pieces of evidence saying when people come back from near-death experiences, they all describe this silent sea of euphoria, the music of heavenly spheres. It's amazing and beautiful there, but they don't know what the dog shit smells like. You know what I mean? Just anything is an amazing gift and experience to me as a human, because I'm using this antenna, right? Six senses, five senses, to experience reality here and now. So to me, for this lifetime, at this moment in my life, emotional intelligence, right, would be just the foundation of my fun and pleasure seeking in life. The more I understand pain, the more I understand fear, the more I feel hurt, the more I feel sadness, the more joy and bliss I have within the body, not within the soul. So my job today, and I was led to it through the series of circumstances, which again, it could be coincidence, which I don't believe in, or it could be like my soul's plan to, uncover
your karma,
it for
your
me.
Fate, if you want to use such words.
To unwrap it for me. Yeah, exactly. So that's what I'm doing, and there's really not much else I can say. I'm going to sing a song for you guys to teach you 5 primary emotions that Dr. Bob and Judith Wright, my teachers, developed, and I'm like, this is my major thing right now, in addition to the 12-step program I'm in, so it's just going to be my version of spirituality for those who care to grab it.
Well, then let's wrap up on that, although I do just want to share one thought that was nagging at me, because mostly what you shared was really beautiful, and it actually helps me, because if people keep along with stuff I talk about in my own personal shit on the show, people might have noticed I keep saying how I've been suffering lately. And I hate I hate going through that. I see its value, and yeah, to a soul, to the inner psyche and the self, who knows what is gained from my human experience of pain and pleasure. But the stupid thought I just really want to say, because it's really dumb, and you had a really beautiful thought, and I had a dumb thought, is that basically what you're saying is that souls are a bunch of weirdos, and they get off on some really weird shit. They like it when I'm not comfortable, and I got a bone to pick with them. And then the best part is that if that's true, then they come down here and they whinge and they complain about it. Yeah. But that's my really dumb thought I wanted to get off my mind.
That's all right. Makes sense to you. That's it. Then it's real.
But if we're gonna have this song, I think I'll have to come around and hold the mic by your head.
Yeah, you can bring up the volume, right? Like I can hear you perfect. Yeah, that's it.
Can you hear us singing?
That's all right.
All right. Well, then I will turn it over to you, Mr. Sasha.
All right. So, I played in many music bands, and I'm a musician, but I would never call myself a singer or vocalist.
Oh, okay.
I just use my voice for another instrument, so don't judge me harshly, But
never.
And I was debating which song to sing. I have two songs with similar melodies. One about
perfect.
Probably, yeah. So one song is about like my experience in going crazy with drug addiction and then coming out of it, and the other one is emotional intelligence song that will teach you, and you guys can actually sing with me the chorus if you want to, and you don't have to be pitch perfect. All right, and this will make this experience more fun, at least for me. So let's try and do that. When I was a baby, I would wonder what was there beyond the stars. Who created all those things around me in this world of ours? As I got older, I would get some answers that made me feel okay for a while. But then something new came into my view and changed all those things, or maybe a few. So I just continued living and being a Jew. What? I ran from the fear, avoided the hurt, arrested my anger and took it to court. And when I felt sadness, I pushed it away. I dove into madness, and that's where I stayed. Very soon my life began to break like a house of cards. I was going down so fast, faster than flying darts, selling my life for a $10 bill, imprisoned in my beliefs, knowing that no one is going to help, but hoping that someone is. Then began the times of my salvation. In the dark I found my God. She and I would work on me together, recovering feelings I forgot. Years went by and I would start to think that I had finally arrived. But then someone new came into my view and changed everything and challenged that view. So now I'm sitting right here and singing for you. Yay, hey. So today I choose to feel fear, I choose to feel hurt, I choose to feel anger, I'm free as a bird. I choose to feel sadness, I choose to feel joy. The world and its madness are wonderful toys. So everybody, fear, hurt, anger, sadness, joy, right? Ready? I choose to feel fear, I choose to feel hurt, I choose to feel anger, I'm free as a bird. I choose to feel sadness, I choose to feel joy. The world and its madness are wonderful toys. I choose to cry when I want, I choose to laugh when I feel like laughing. No matter what people say, I know I'm true to myself. The I know I'm true to myself. 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 Yeah!
Oh my God, Sasha, what an incredible song. Hey, well, let's wrap on that just really quick. Tell our guests, plug your shit. Tell our guests where they can find you if they want to find you, brother.
All right, so the company that I have is called Meta Coaches. Very simple, metacoaches.org. I definitely help people with addiction recovery coaching and couples coaching. My wife today is 4 months since my dear life of 33 years passed. And she's living through my heart today, and we're helping couples, have been helping couples, so I'm pretty good at that. We raised 3 children. I have 3 boys, 20, 23, and 25. So metacoaches.org, Facebook Metacoaches, Instagram Metacoaches. You'll find me there. Shoot me a question you want me to answer. I'm pretty good at answering questions and helping people, so hey.
Well, you heard it here, all linked in the video. Sasha, thank you for being our guest today.